The lights come up slowly, and before anyone even speaks, you can feel it. That quiet buzz in the air. The kind that only happens when something unexpected is about to unfold. Welcome back everyone. Today's story is not just about talent, it is about legacy, courage, and a man who turned danger into art. This is the unbelievable story of Bello Nock, the circus legend with the famous hair, and the moment he shocked America's Got Talent in a way no one could forget. Before the judges even had a chance to introduce him, the audience noticed one thing instantly. The hair. Tall, gravity-defying, standing straight up like it had a personality of its own. It was impossible to ignore. Some laughed, some whispered, others leaned forward in curiosity. Because when someone walks onto a stage looking like that, you know you are not about to see something ordinary. Bello Nock did not rush. He walked with confidence, smiling, owning every step as if the stage belonged to him. And in a way, it did. Because Bello was not just a performer hoping for a break. He was a performer carrying generations of history on his shoulders. He greeted the judges warmly. His voice was calm, almost playful. When asked who he was, he did not say a dreamer or a hopeful contestant. He said he was a circus performer. A real one. Born into it. Raised under the big top. And suddenly the room shifted. This was not someone chasing fame. This was someone who had lived this life since childhood. Bello explained that his family had been performing circus acts for generations. His father, his grandfather, all risking their lives night after night so audiences could feel wonder. For Bello, danger was not something to fear. It was something he understood. Then came the question everyone was thinking. The hair. How does it stand like that? Bello smiled. He said it was his secret weapon. Strong enough to hold his body weight. At that moment, the audience laughed, thinking it was a joke. Even the judges smiled politely. But Bello did not laugh. He was serious. Silence fell across the room. The stage crew brought out equipment. Ropes. Platforms. Things that did not belong in a normal audition. Bello removed his jacket, revealing a strong, trained body, the kind built by years of discipline rather than gym mirrors. He tied the rope not to his hands, not to his waist, but to his hair. You could feel the tension rise instantly. People shifted in their seats. Some gasped. One judge leaned back. Another leaned forward. Because this was no illusion. No trick. This was real. This was raw. As Bello prepared, he spoke about trust. Trust in himself. Trust in his training. Trust in the art passed down through his family. And then, without drama, without countdown, he stepped off the platform. His entire body lifted into the air. Hanging by his hair. The audience erupted. Screams, applause, disbelief. Some covered their mouths. Others stood up instantly. The judges were frozen. Not because they were unimpressed, but because their brains were struggling to process what they were seeing. Bello did not stop there. While suspended, he began to spin. Slowly at first. Then faster. His body extended, controlled, elegant in a way that made something so dangerous look beautiful. This was not just strength. This was balance. Precision. Years of pain and practice condensed into seconds. And then he smiled. That smile changed everything. Because it told the audience one thing clearly. He was not surviving this. He was enjoying it. As he came back down, the crowd exploded into applause. People jumped to their feet. The judges stood as well. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. Simon Cowell looked genuinely stunned. He admitted he had never seen anything like it. He said it was one of the most dangerous acts to ever step onto that stage. And then he said something important. This is not just a trick. This is a lifetime of work. Another judge praised Bello's confidence, saying that he turned fear into excitement. That he made people feel alive just by watching. Someone else said that Bello reminded them why live performance still matters in a world full of screens. Bello listened humbly. He nodded. He thanked them. And then he revealed something deeper. He said that being on that stage was not just about winning. It was about honoring his family. About proving that circus art still has a place. About showing the world that tradition and danger can still inspire wonder. As the judges voted, there was no suspense. Every yes felt earned. Every cheer felt genuine. But the story of Bello Nock does not end there. Because what makes Bello truly special is not just what he does, but why he does it. In a world chasing safe content, he chooses risk. In a time where shortcuts are praised, he commits to mastery. He reminds us that some talents cannot be learned quickly. They are lived. Behind the scenes, Bello has suffered injuries, pain, moments where quitting would have been easier. But he never stopped. Because the circus was never just a job. It was his identity. When people talk about his hair, they laugh. They joke. But what they are really seeing is a symbol. A symbol of discipline, of heritage, of courage to stand out even when people doubt you. That night on America's Got Talent, Bello did not just perform. He challenged fear itself. He reminded millions watching at home that humans are capable of extraordinary things when passion meets purpose. As the episode ended, one thing was clear. No one forgot Bello Nock. Not the judges. Not the audience. Not the viewers. Because legends are not made by being normal. They are made by daring to be different. If you enjoyed this incredible story, make sure to support talent that pushes boundaries, that honors tradition, and that reminds us why live performance still takes our breath away. Stay tuned, because there are more unbelievable stories waiting to be told. As the applause finally faded and Bello stepped off the stage, something unusual happened behind the scenes. Crew members who had worked on hundreds of auditions stood quietly for a moment, processing what they had just witnessed. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others smiled, knowing they had just been part of something rare. Bello did not celebrate loudly. He simply took a deep breath, touched his hair gently, and thanked the people around him. For him, this moment was not about shock. It was about respect. When Bello walked backstage, the tension finally left his shoulders. The act was over, but the journey that brought him there was still very much alive in his mind. He remembered being a child, waking up in circus tents instead of bedrooms. He remembered the smell of sawdust, the sound of crowds, and the quiet fear before every performance. While other kids played games, Bello trained. While others rested, he practiced balance, strength, and control. Pain was familiar. Discipline was normal. His father used to tell him that the circus does not forgive mistakes. 1 second of doubt can change everything. That lesson stayed with him for life. Bello learned early that confidence was not arrogance. It was survival. As cameras followed him backstage, Bello spoke softly about what that stage meant to him. He said that America's Got Talent was not just another show. It was a place where the world could finally see what circus artists truly do. Not tricks. Not stunts. But calculated risk built on years of trust in the human body. Back in the theater, the judges were still talking about him. One of them admitted that when Bello first walked out, they were unsure. The hair made him look like a character. But the moment he lifted off the ground, everything changed. The laughter turned into silence. The silence turned into awe. Simon Cowell said something that stayed with viewers long after the episode ended. He said that talent like Bello's cannot be copied. It cannot be trained in a few months. It is the result of a life dedicated to one thing. And that is what makes it special. As the show aired across the country, reactions flooded in. Social media exploded. Clips of Bello hanging by his hair were shared millions of times. People argued. Some said it was terrifying. Others said it was inspiring. Many said they could not even watch without looking away. But everyone agreed on one thing. They could not forget it. Parents watched with their children and explained what discipline looks like. Performers watched and felt respect. Circus artists around the world felt seen. For the first time in a long time, the old-school circus felt modern again. Bello began receiving messages from people who had never stepped inside a circus tent. They said his performance reminded them that real talent still exists beyond screens and filters. Some said it gave them courage to follow their own dangerous dreams, not physically dangerous, but emotionally risky. The kind where failure hurts. But Bello stayed grounded. He returned to training the very next day. Because applause fades, skill must remain. As the competition moved forward, Bello knew the pressure would increase. Expectations rise quickly after a performance like that. People no longer expect surprise. They expect perfection. And Bello understood that better than anyone. He prepared new ideas, new risks, new ways to push himself without losing control. Every move was rehearsed endlessly. Not because he feared failure, but because he respected danger. When he returned to the stage for the next round, the atmosphere was different. The audience already knew his name. They cheered before he spoke. The judges watched carefully. This time, Bello did not need to prove who he was. He needed to show growth. He smiled again. That familiar calm smile. The kind that tells you the performer is exactly where he belongs. As the act progressed, Bello once again used his hair, but with added complexity. Movements were sharper. Transitions smoother. The danger felt closer. The audience leaned forward, holding their breath. Every second felt longer. Every motion felt heavier. And once again, Bello delivered. When he finished, there was a pause. That rare pause where applause waits because people need a second to breathe. Then the theater erupted. The judges praised not just the act, but the evolution. They said Bello was not repeating himself. He was elevating. One judge said that Bello had turned fear into poetry. Another said that watching him was like witnessing a living legend rather than a contestant. Even when Bello eventually exited the competition, his impact remained. Because winning is not always measured by trophies. Sometimes it is measured by memory. Years from now, people may forget who won that season. But they will remember the man who hung by his hair and smiled. Bello Nock walked onto that stage as a circus performer. He walked away as a symbol of what dedication looks like when it refuses to fade. And that is why his story matters. Because in a world full of shortcuts, he chose the long road. In a world afraid of risk, he embraced it. And in a world that often forgets tradition, he reminded us that some legacies are meant to be carried forward, no matter how heavy they feel. If you stayed till this moment, you already understand. This was never just a performance. It was a lifetime, told in minutes. And there are still more moments to uncover.